So this is Steven Leskin. Welcome to the Divorce Deep Dive webinar series. Glad to see you again. My deep dive series is meant to be a deep dive into a topic on family law in Oregon. Today we are covering resources that are available to people for divorce other than just hiring a divorce lawyer. So I'll talk about um, uh, divorce forms that are available to people. I'll talk about low-cost resources, uh, legal alternatives, and then finally talk about finding a lawyer and keeping your costs low and how to work with the lawyer so that you're not necessarily running up a huge bill. I was admitted to practice in 1992 in Oregon. I've been practicing family law since about 2001. I've been doing mediation for the last couple of years. I'm the founder of One Day Divorce Mediation in Portland. I handle cases statewide. And always welcome to talk to people about representation. So, oops. Oh, no, I'm going backwards. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. So the deep dive series is intended as a deep dive into Oregon law. That This sometimes can be kind of dry. That's why I'm doing it in the water. And It's a real serious focus on a topic that's of importance to people going through the divorce process. This is not an infomercial. I'm not going to talk about myself. I'm not going to try to sell you on my practice or anything like that. This is a serious look at topics that are um, will come up during divorce. This session, this iteration, is on resources available out there for people going through divorce. Not everybody needs to hire a lawyer. I'm the first to say that. There's certain times when it's just not necessary. Uh, there are times when I think it is necessary, of course, but we're going to talk about those times also when it's not necessary today to actually bring in a lawyer. All right, so we're going to start about forms. A lot of people call me maybe once a week and say they have, or a couple times a week, they say that they have divorce forms and they want somebody to help them go through the forms to do the divorce. You can download, there are many different places to download divorce. Uh, t- there are many different ways to download divorce forms from online. Uh, there are there's really good family law divorce forms put together by the Oregon Judicial Department. I sat on the committee for years putting those forms together. They've gotten better over time. They're still not appropriate for most people, having said that, and I'll explain why in just a second. But there are forms that out there that if you need a divorce, you don't have property divide, you don't have a complicated titled property divide, or kids, or excessive debt, or real estate, or retirement. If you don't have those things, then the forms will work fine for you. And you can download those online. You can go to type in your browser, Oregon Judicial Department Family Law Forms, and you'll go right there. And generally, what people are going to be looking for is dissolution marriage. And it breaks down dissolution with kids. Um, and so just pick the appropriate forms. There's also forms for separation. I don't think there should not be forms for annulments. Annulments is a different process than a divorce. So there's not going to be annulment forms, but you'll find, just search on family law form, Oregon Judicial Department, family law forms, and you will find forms there to go through the process. And you don't need a lawyer. If it's a simple divorce, then you really don't need a lawyer to do it. You can also find downloadable forms through the Oregon County uh, courthouse websites. So each, like if you Googled Clackamas or Polk, all of the um, courthouses have their own forms. It's probably better to use the local forms because they're more tailored and the judges are going to be more familiar with the forms that their own courthouse has on their own websites. So you could download your forms from the county website, and you'll see that they have go to the domestic relations or family law department, and you'll see that there's always a section for family law forms. Uh, there are also privately produced forms. In prepping for this today, I typed in Oregon divorce forms, and I thought I would see there used to be lots of online services, pay $30 and get a form. I didn't see that so much um, today when I was looking. I came across one company called Divorce Writer, and they were using the state produced forms. They didn't even produce their own forms. They were copying from the state. So they were just downloading uncopyrighted forms, and they had that on their website. So there used to be, and maybe I just missed it today, but there used to be lots of uh, you know, where you type in everything and it'd be like TurboTax and then you get the forms back. I just didn't see that today. It may still be out there, but I didn't see it. The state does have, if you go to the Oregon Judicial Department, the state does have a service that does that, and there's no cost to do complete the forms like that. Um, some things to think about with downloading forms. The forms, and I'm saying this from my experience on the committee that developed these forms. These forms are, in fact, developed to reach the widest amount of people. They have to be as general as they can. And so whether you fit within that generality, you may or you may not fit within that generality. You may have a situation where the form is not going to fit for you. So, for example, if you have a house, uh, the form will ask you some like very basic questions about dividing the real estate, but you're not going to get into the details that you need if the house is going to be sold or when the house is going to be sold, how to deal with the equity, how to deal with liens, how to deal with if there's taxes or repairs need to be made, or how long the person is going to stay there, and how that person is going to get compensated, the other party is going to get compensated for the equity or the increase in equity. So these issues get really deep pretty quickly, and the state-produced forms cannot track that. They are there for the widest amount of people. They're generally pretty good for kids because those situations tend to be, believe it or not, those situations tend to be pretty standard. That might sound counterintuitive, but there's always be custody issues, which is there's only three choices. There's going to be child support, which you can go to the state and download the child support calculation, and parenting time, and there are forms for the parenting time. So the kids are not really the issue. It's going to be like property and debt. Retirement accounts can get very complicated, and the state forms just are not going to accommodate anything that approaches complexity. Um, I once had just to give an example, the forms are getting better, but years ago I was talking to a judge who I know, known for years, and we were talking about the state produced forms, and I made the comment that I didn't understand. I've been at that point I've been practicing for 20 years. And I made the comment that I still didn't understand all of the language in the forms. He looked at me and shook his head and said, I agree. I don't know what some of this stuff means either. It's gotten better, but it's not perfect. Um, so the best use of the state produced forms, and when you can use them safely and you're not going to trip something up later that you have to come back to, is when a couple just needs a divorce, right? You need to be divorced so you can move on with your life. Uh, if there's cars, you can deal with the cars. If there's some debt, you can deal with the debt, kind of simple stuff. Um, the state forms are just absolutely fine for that. You don't need a lawyer to do that. So you can use the forms in those circumstances. So, uncontested divorces, where parties agree that things are going to be divided this way. You can use them to get a case going. If you do have a complicated case, you can use the state-produced petition to initiate the case. Um, but then it's just going to get really confusing and difficult for somebody to figure out like what forms they're going to need down the road, and then to fill them out correctly. Moving along, low-cost family law resources. There are some, and we'll get into those. And um, there's not a lot of free resources. Uh, Myself, all the attorneys in the community who have websites, all have blogs and all have information on their websites. And when I've read my colleagues' websites, some of them are really good. I put a lot of effort into mine. And so you can find some information online, but that's not tailored to your needs, right? That's not tailored to individual needs. Um, so that would be one source. Attorney websites are one source of information. I get probably a call every couple of days from somebody who says, "I'm looking for a pro bono attorney," and I always have to take a beat and calm down before saying, do you also work for free? Because if you work for free, then maybe we could trade. But they're not going to have something that I need that I'm going to trade for. So there are no pro bono attorneys. Legal aid has some limited spots for people who are victims of violence, and they have some attorneys who will take cases on a pro bono basis, but those are very rare. There are 17,000 divorces a year in the state, and I'm not even going to venture a guess of how many of those are done pro bono. Probably none. Probably very close to none, if not that. Legal aid will take some cases without cost where there's violence involved, but it's really hard to get on that list. Um, um, so you're probably not going to get very far through legal aid, but certainly you can find legal aid of Oregon. You find them online and call and see if they have if you qualify economically and you qualify for the types of cases that they'll take for family law. The Oregon State Bar has a lot of information, and that will be authoritative. It's probably it is similar to the information you can find online. Um, the Oregon State Bar information will be authoritative. There's a section on the bar website, it's osbar.org, and you can find lots of information about legal issues, basic legal knowledge on the court's website. The Oregon State Bar also has a modest means program. Uh, the State Bar runs a referral service, and they'll connect you with a lawyer. Any lawyer can be on that referral service. There's no qualifying. Once you're a lawyer, you can get on the list. Um, and within that list, within that referral sources, you can ask for a modest means attorney. You have to meet uh, people who get accepted into that have to meet certain financial criteria. It's not available for everybody, and the number of attorneys who will take modest mean cases is low. The rate that an attorney can charge for taking a modest means case is not profitable to us. It's just not. So there's not a lot of attorneys on that list. It costs a lot of money to stay in business, and working at the rates that they're requiring us to charge to accept modest mean cases makes it prohibitive. I spoke about legal aid. A great resource in the Tri-County area is St. Andrew's Legal Clinic. I've been volunteer there for more than 2 decades now, since 2001 almost. And I support legal aid. I misspoke. I support St. Andrew's uh, with my time, my money. It's a really good organization. They do really good legal work. The attorneys there are really committed. It's on a sliding scale. Um, and depending on what your earnings are, um, if you're a middle income, $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year, you'll still be required to bring in a $6,000 retainer to get started. So there is still a barrier, uh, um, but the hourly rate is longer, so that retainer will last longer, and in most cases will probably cover the representation. Uh, but you will get you will get good appropriate legal representation through St. Andrews. Another option that I think people overlook, they just don't know about it, is each of the counties in the state is mandated to have a mediation program. Each county is a little bit different. Some counties will only mediate issues related to kids. Some counties they'll allow couples to mediate on anything, but that may be a first stop. You go through mediation, and then work out your issues with your spouse, and then you can just use the forms to memorialize that and file the general judgment of dissolution with the court. And that's probably the most cost-effective way if you can do it. There are some drawbacks to doing mediation. One is um, if there's a huge power imbalance, right? You know, somebody's like, I'm not going to give you money to survive on until we get this settled, or there's been domestic violence, or you don't trust the spouse to disclose all of their assets or um, income, then mediation is not appropriate at that level before the case is filed. Um, so those are some situations where uh, mediation is not advised. You can still do it, and you know whatever the outcome is the outcome. But mediation, the mediators usually are very good and skilled conflict resolution people, and they'll help you get uh, resolution so that you can go forward. That's probably one of the quickest and cheapest ways to get divorced, as long as both people agree to mediate. If they don't both agree to mediate, then you're in court. And lastly, each I can't say this definitively, but all the courts that I know of in the state have a family law resource center or a family law department or a family law clerk. And the first thing that that person will tell you is, I can't give you legal advice. They can't. They're not lawyers. Uh, but they can help you find the right forms. They can help you with the process. They can tell you what the court's requirements are, uh, and they can steer you in the right way. So my recommendation is always to call the court, you know, whether it's Washington or Marion, call the court, speak to the family law clerk, find out if they have a family law resource center, and then find out their hours or whether or not you need an appointment. You might, if you and your spouse are in agreement with everything and you can do the paperwork together, it might be a good idea to run it by the Family Law Resource uh, Center first before you file it, and they'll just make sure that they'll help you to smooth the process through to get it filed to the court quicker. So yeah, there's not a lot of resources for there are not a lot of low cost resources. Something that I do, and I think other attorneys do, is I'll offer people a consultation for $600 for 2 hours, which is my hourly rate times two. And I don't like to go over forms, but you know, I will help answer questions and help people come up with a strategy or explain things to people. Um, and so that's also, you know, option that's out there. You may have to call around to find an attorney who'll do it. Um, but you know, we're out there. We'll do it. You'll find people. All right. I call this weighing legal options. So there's still a couple of other ways to divorce more economically, and I'm finding the slide and the moving hand really annoying. So I'm gonna move on. I didn't realize this was so annoying when I put it together. Professional mediation. Mediation is generally going to be way less expensive than litigation. I know that like my fee structure when I mediate is probably a third of what it would cost when I litigate. So mediation is talking through the issues with a professional, neutral person and coming to an agreement. And it's more efficient, it's less time consuming, it's less stressful, it's private, it's not done in court. And so mediation has a lot of advantages. And I think you're seeing more and more attorneys, including myself, who are moving their careers in the direction of being mediators as opposed to litigators. Uh, um, so uh, if money's an option, if money's an issue, even if the mediator is going to charge five or $10,000, that's still going to be cheaper than each person hiring their own lawyer by far. Uh, um, I do my mediations on a set fee. When you speak to mediators, you want make sure you know what all the costs are and how all the paperwork is going to get done. A lot of times the mediators will just say, "Well, here's the agreement, and you need to go and hire a lawyer or a paralegal to put things down on paper and get it through the courts." That can still be a long process, and it still may not reflect what your agreement was um, doing it that way. So you have to vet the mediator a little bit. Oregon has a new process, a new procedure in place for allowing paralegals to do family law and some other areas, but paralegals now are uh, empowered to help people do divorce and do the paperwork for divorces. And that's an option too. And there are many, sometimes the paralegals are more qualified than the lawyers, to be honest with you. They know how to get things through the courts, they know how to put together the paperwork. Um, and so if you and your spouse know what you want, and you just want somebody to put the divorce together for you, hiring a qualified paralegal um, may be an option. And like anything else, you're going to have to vet them, talk to them, find out how much they've done it, what their process is, make sure you understand all of their costs, um, and shop around a little bit. Um, there are some people who do form reviews, like I mentioned, St. Andrews. St. Andrews will bill you by the hour at a reduced rate to look over your forms and go through things with you. That's limited in what, as an attorney, it's limited in what I can do because I'm not taking you on as a client and I'm not independently verifying the information you give me. Whenever you take me on it, whenever I take you on as a client and I'm working your case, I don't rely on what you tell me. I verify everything. Nothing goes into the court without it being independently verified. And so, like doing a form review um, doesn't have that component to it. And uh, client may not know what the law is looking for or what the judges are going to look for. And so the advice that the attorney may give you may be wrong because you don't know what facts to put before the attorney. So form review has its place. It's limited, but there are attorneys out there who will do it. Like I mentioned, if you're in the Tri-County area, St. Andrews will do that for you too. And lastly, another option is just an uncontested divorce. My last seminar 2 weeks ago was almost an hour on uncontested divorces, maybe not quite an hour, close to about 40 minutes. Um, and you can use the form if you and your spouse agree, then on everything, how the debt's going to be split, kids, house, income. If there's spouse support, if you agree, then you can do an uncontested divorce. If there's any argument over the details, then it's no longer uncontested. But you can find an attorney to put together the court documents for an uncontested divorce pretty easily. I seem to do a lot of them, a couple a month actually. So uncontested divorce is less expensive. Um, it's quick. It's a lot easier for the parties, and what you're essentially doing is you're working everything out. The parties are working everything out before they hire a lawyer, and then coming and saying, "This is our agreement. Can you put it together for us?" And so naturally, that's going to be less expensive. The same things apply that I mentioned for whether or not mediation is appropriate for uncontested divorce. Are you sure you're covering all of the assets? Are you sure you got all the debt? Are you sure you've accounted for the income? Uh, you don't want to discover a retirement account, 5 years after the divorce and say, "Well, I didn't know about it." You know, there's an obligation to disclose all the assets, but you have to ask for it, and you're not going to likely do that in an uncontested divorce. So, uncontested divorce is good for the simple, we just need a divorce kind of situations. All right. All right. Finding a lawyer, talking about money, keeping your bills low. So I've been practicing since 1992, and I can tell you that I didn't know squat for the first 5 years. It This is a hard profession. There's a lot to know, and there's two parts to that. One is developing your skill base, and the other part is just knowledge. And those are two different things, and they take years to develop. Um, um, there are a lot of rules that will trip you up. I get tripped up still. Uh, Experienced people still get tripped up. So you just don't want to. You want to get tripped up on the. Well, you don't want to get tripped up, but you don't get tripped up on the simple stuff. So um, I think one of the biggest factors in hiring a qualified lawyer is time in the seat, is how long they've been practicing. I personally wouldn't hire anybody based on like what I see of attorneys. I wouldn't hire anybody who's practiced less than 5 years. So you can ask, how long have you been practicing? You can check with the Oregon State Bar, and if you want to, and confirm that. Uh, but 5 years is minimum, and whether they've worked in a firm that has oversight and is like checking their work, or not, or are they on their own? I know that I opened my law practice the day I got sworn in to practice law, and I knew that in order to be a good lawyer, I had to master everything, and I spent a lot of time and took a lot of pride in that. But not everybody is that is not like not everybody is like that. So you want to get a feel for people and what they know, and um, what their experience is, how long have they been doing this type of law. It's not really a fair question to say how many of your cases have you won, because um, we all lose cases, and we sometimes take cases we don't want to take. We sometimes take cases to court that we don't want to take to court. The client may say, "I don't care. I just want my day in court." I finished a case like that a couple of weeks ago. Client just wanted her day in court. I so um, it's not a fair metric to say how many cases you've won. I don't keep track like that. I've had great wins and I've had big losses. Um, uh, I lost a case a couple months ago that I believe in my heart I should have won. I think the judge got it wrong. I've been practicing 30 years. I got a feel for this. Uh, so the win-lose metric is not really a great metric. It's the feel you get for the person. Are they willing to talk to you? Are they going to charge you for everything? Um, uh, I'll come back to that in a second. But what feel do you get talking to them? Are they willing to talk to you, explain things? How good are they as a communicator? If they're communicating well with you, they'll communicate well with the judge, right? So look how long they've practiced. And you want to look for somebody who's doing family law. Family law is a lot of attorneys just practice family law, right? They don't. People who do personal injury will practice personal injury, Social Security, and workers' comp, and those fields all kind of relate together, and that's fine. They all have like an underlying basis of uh, um, body parts. That's the subject matter is body part in all of those areas. Uh, so so that grouping is fine, but family law is kind of its own unique little specialty area, and people tend to focus on that. So you want to focus with somebody who's been doing, I'm not going to say exclusively family law, and family law itself is pretty broad, but somebody who's experienced in advertising that they do family law. So look at their marketing materials. Is this type of cases that they're trying to? Are you the type of client they're trying to attract? Maybe another way to think about it. Another thing to look at, social media is really important. And even I know that when I'm going to hire a professional, I'll look at their reviews. Uh, Everybody gets an occasional bad review. I'm not so concerned about that. If I see somebody, I was looking at a lawyer in California. I think he's in his 40s and had something like 7,000 reviews. And like, uh, that just doesn't drive right with me, right? I mean, 7,000, I mean, it's just an astronomical number. And so uh, I use reviews to see if I'm getting like red flags. Like, are there red flags? There, on the other hand, there was a law firm in Portland a couple years ago whose reviews, like their Yelp reviews or their Google reviews, they had like 1.3 stars. Well, that's a message, right? That those consumers are angry at that firm. So that would be something to avoid. Are the reviews legit? If you read reviews, you can tell fake reviews. They all kind of sound alike. They're too perfect. They're all, somebody gets like, all fives. Um, Not everybody. I mean, we kind of, let's be honest, we kind of ask if we know somebody's not happy, we're not going to ask for a review. Like that's just kind of common sense among all business people. But if like you can tell that the reviews are staged or phony, that to me is an immediate disqualifier. So it's social verification. That's the term that people use uh, for deciding whether or not somebody's like a good professional or not. Um, and then how does your first conversation go with them? Like easy to talk to? Are they taking the time? Are they too rushed? Are they trying to get you to spend money a little too quickly? Uh, we all have a certain amount of time. We're happy to talk to people, but how's that conversation going? What kind of feel do you get for them? Uh, are they willing to give you advice? If somebody's too willing to give you free advice, I'd be careful because they're jumping to conclusions. If somebody asks, like me, what's going to happen in the house, I'm usually like, I can't tell you that. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I haven't verified the facts, and I don't know the other side's take on what's happened. So it's, you can give generalities, but if somebody's too willing to give you advice, to me, that's a red flag. Not everybody's going to agree with that, but to me, it's like, so it's just not a good sign. How to keep, let's see, what's next? Okay, so if you're looking for an attorney, you got to talk about money. And I used to work, the one time I worked for a law firm, I've been self-employed almost my whole life. The one time I worked for a law firm, their line was, it will cost you $3,000 to get started. And people, oh, that's terrific, $3,000. They wouldn't tell them that the full divorce might cost $30,000. $3,000 to get you started. And clients would be pissed at me because like they're running out of a bill. There was huge pressure to bill uh, um, for everything. And um, there was a lot of false expectations created at that first meeting. So you need to be able to talk about money. It's a true statement to say I don't know how much it's going to when I'm litigating. It's a true statement to say I don't know how much it's going to cost. I can give you some estimates at each level, like if we get a settlement, if it goes to trial, I can give those kind of estimates. But most attorneys won't because they know that will turn cust consumers don't want to spend that kind of money just to get divorced. They don't want to put that kind of money into a relationship that's failing, right? So you want to talk about money. You want to talk to the attorney about like what's the budget? What can we expect to? What can we expect to? What can we reasonably expect to spend? In my mediation practice, I will tell you exactly how much it's going to cost, but I can't do that in a litigated, you know, situation where clients hire an attorney, spouse hire an attorney. You just don't know. Uh, Sometimes I will take cases on a flat fee. But I gotta tell you, the flat fee is gonna favor me. I'm gonna make sure that I get my time covered. If you lose a little bit, that's on you. If you want to take the risk that it's not gonna go over so much money, that it may make sense to you. But I'm gonna make sure that my time is covered on a flat fee situation. Sometimes it's a good idea for clients. Um, uh, the benefit to me as an attorney is I'm getting my payment up front. I don't have to worry about money. I just have to worry about how much time I'm putting into the case. And that's just a function of like the feel I get for the client in the situation. Um, uh, Retainers. Every attorney is going to ask for money up front. It's a security deposit. Uh, I my retainer is $5,000, and that's low. Most attorneys now are charging 10,000 or more for retainer if there's like a house or kids involved. Um, we don't have any, after we get into the case, we don't have any security that we're going to get paid, and we don't want to. The worst situation for us, for the attorneys, is not getting paid and then not being able to get out of a case because the court still has to approve your withdrawal from a case. Usually the courts will, but you don't always know that. So nobody wants to be in a situation where you are working for nothing. So we get a retainer. The retainer may require you to keep it like at a certain level, or to pay the way I do it, just for references, I'll take the retainer, but you still have to stay current with your monthly bills, and I'll work with you on that. Um, but I'm going to have money in my trust account the whole time, and then at the end you'll get that back. Uh, I think most attorneys do it the same way. You don't draw from the retainer. Client stays current with the bill, and then they get the retainer back at the end. It's a lot of times people will call and say, "Well, I'm going to get a payout from the house. I know that the house is going to get sold, and that there'll be money to pay you." A lawyer can't ethically do that. That's taking that fee on a contingency basis because the house has to get sold for you to get paid. So I don't do it. I know that there are attorneys who do, and they can say, well, it's not really contingent because I'm still billing it hourly and they're responsible for it, whether the house sells or not. It's more in the form of a security agreement. And it's an argument, but I don't do that for just to stay out of trouble with the bar. And then the last two issues are, talking to the attorney, talking to your attorney about money, like what are you paying for? I'll cover that in the next slide. But how much, talk to them and make sure that you're not getting a line like, $3,000 to get you started. That there are attorneys out there who do that, and it's not right. That's just a recipe for resentment and anger and bad Yelp reviews. Oops. Oops. Oh, I went too fast. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me go back. One, two. Okay. So keeping your bill low or at least lower. When you hire a lawyer, clarify what they're billing you for. There are attorneys who will bill for every second, like every second. If you call and say, "Are you open today? What time are you open until?" And the paralegal takes a call, you get billed for that. Can I bring the documents by your office? You get billed for that. Um, my position is that you are signing an agreement for legal services and charging for um, answering those kind of functional logistic questions is not providing legal services. So you want to make sure that you know what the attorney is going to bill for. That's why I got the sharks, because kind of a shark sometimes. So make sure that you understand what is being billed. I know somebody who would bill for reviewing bills. If a client calls, it's like you can't do that. That's like for you. It's not for the client, right? So I don't bill for. I don't bill like if you call me up and ask me, can I bring something by? You're not going to bill for that. Uh, um, Making arrangements for meetings, I don't bill for that. Just stuff like that. I don't bill for that. Um, if I call you up and say, we have court on, or I send you an email that says we have court on, May 20th at 9 o'clock. And this is, about court, you get billed for that. But if like it's just um, a quick email for something, I'm not going to nickel and dime people. Um, um, so make sure you understand from the fee agreement, from the representation agreement, what your obligations are. You will also likely get paid for administrative time and paralegal time. And you want to make sure that you understand that. Are they going to charge you for opening a file in the office? Are they going to charge you for closing the file? The firm I referenced before, you could spend $30,000 for a divorce with the firm, and they'll charge you $100 for a closing fee. Crazy. So you want to make sure that and I don't think that was in their fee agreement. So you want to make sure that you understand not only what the lawyer's going to charge for, but there's going to be paralegal time. You're going to pay for that. That's fine. Uh, and you need to know whether or not you're going to be paying for administrative time. I don't think a firm can bill you for administrative time. That's not advancing your case at all. That's just getting the file set up or doing whatever they need to do to get the case rolling, the representation functioning. So I don't think that, if the fee agreement says you're paying for legal services, I think you have some right to push back on that, say legal services. This is not legal services, but you want to understand that. Uh, when you deal with the attorney, consolidate your communications. Uh, multiple, every time I get a client email from a client, I'm billing for that. And so the only thing I have to sell is my time and my smarts. And so, um, if you like wait a couple days, if you have just like one question and it doesn't need to be asked like right then, keep a list, keep a running list, and then just send one email with all of your questions. It's going to be cheaper for you because the attorney's not going to have to open up every time to read it and bill for it. So make sure that your communications are consolidated as best you can. Understand how your attorney wants information. Uh, if your attorney is asking for documents, how does the attorney want them back? What form? I don't think anybody's taking anything in paper anymore, but does he want you to put it on a Google Drive? Like in what kind of like folders what kind of folder structure does the attorney want to see? Um, I know that I've gotten better at explaining that to clients over the years. Uh, um, and so if you can do it in the structure that the attorney wants it, it's going to save the attorney a lot of time or the paralegal a lot of time. So get things neatly put together. Think about like, how can I make this easier for the attorney? Because that will save you money. Um, don't let your attorney ask you several times for the same item. I hate that. And I hate billing for it too. So if the attorney asks you for something and then has to ask you again and then has to ask you again, that's three asks. You've probably just spent $200 for nothing, right? So don't make if the attorney asks for something, get it to them. And then lastly, stay focused. Um, if I'm having like a social conversation, like you just talk to people, you're having a social conversation, I don't charge for that at all. I won't. I'll just charge for the time that we're like talking business. Um, I don't know that every attorney does that, but that's just me. But don't send chatty texts. Don't send chatty DMs. Stay focused on your case. It's okay to have a social relationship, but the attorney has got 30 or 40 or however many other clients to attend to, and you're taking time away from that person making money. So just stay focused on what you need, and the social stuff is fine. We all need that, um, and sometimes it's even important uh, um, for informational purposes, for relationship issues, for trust issues. It's important to have that social connection. Um, but you want to say, don't watch how chatty you are with your attorney, because that will cost you money. So that's resources for people. Thank you for attending. It's if you have questions, I take questions during the webinars, but here's my contact information. I will welcome a call from people. If you have questions about anything that I've discussed today, take the number down and give me a call. I'll be happy to go through it with you. If you're watching this on my website, same thing. If you have a question, I'm happy to go through things with you. Um, and there's my contact information, my website, email address. If you like the webinar and you found me on Meetup, give me a good review. Those good reviews, like we talked about, go a long way with other people. And if you have feedback, always happy for the feedback. So good luck. Thank you.